The Steelers seem to be amid a giant collapse. In the last 3 games that they've played good competition, including the Philadelphia Eagles, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And at a minimum, I really wanted the Steelers to show me that they are true contenders in the AFC by at least going 1-2. That's not a lot to ask for, because I know the Eagles are a tough matchup and they didn't have George Pickens. And if the game they really needed to win, it's the game against the Baltimore Ravens. You're going on the road, you're playing a division rival. If you sweep Baltimore, you basically have the division locked up. But unfortunately for Pittsburgh, things fell apart in the second half. It was a 7-point game. Steelers get the ball back with an opportunity to tie the ball game up, but Russell Wilson throws a bad pick six to Marlon Humphrey, who takes it back, and the game's virtually over from there. The Ravens go up by 14 points. They win by the final score of 34-17. While they did have that fourth quarter burst, like I said, this game was right there for the taking, and we have to see that Russell Wilson's play hasn't been the same ever since December really rolled around. We've seen some issues where he's been missing throws, and against the Ravens in particular, it wasn't that great, because in the first half, he was running towards the goal line, had an opportunity to either set them up with a touchdown or, if not, a first and goal opportunity, but he fumbled the ball after taking a hit, and the red zone turnovers, like we've been saying, is one of the biggest cardinal sins in all of football. Ravens take advantage, and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens get the season split against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this sets up a must-win scenario against the Kansas City Chiefs, the 2-time defending champions, at home this time. After this rough 2-game stretch on the road, you get a home game on Christmas against the Kansas City Chiefs. And yet again, you enter the fourth quarter just down 6. It's 16-10. Steelers offense didn't show up in the fourth quarter as the Kansas City Chiefs dominated the final period, winning by a score of 29-10. The Steelers offense, which has faded in this final stretch. Yes, George Pickens has been out, but let's be honest though, there have to be other options out there outside of George Pickens, this talented wide receiver, for the Steelers to generate any type of offense. And in these 3 pivotal contests, the Steelers offense haven't put up more than 17 points. And it's not like the defense hasn't been balling out. I mean, they've generated turnovers. They have been able to get stops against very good offenses. But unfortunately, the Steelers offense hasn't put up their end of the bargain. I just remembered that game against Philadelphia where they forced 2 back-to-back fumbles, and on the first fumble they didn't even get any points, and after getting a special teams turnover deep in the red zone inside Eagles territory, Steelers go 3-and-out and have to settle for a Chris Boswell field goal. Talking about Russell Wilson in particular, I don't think he's the main cause for the Steelers' collapse, especially on the offensive struggles, but his play has dipped. I mean, let's just look at it. The turnovers have gone up, the efficiency is down, his yards per pass is not the same as it used to be, and we can't just say that, oh, well, no, there's no George Pickens. Well, Russell Wilson has been in this league for many years, and to be honest, he started off his career without talented wide receivers. It was only the back end of his Seattle career when he got talented wide receivers like a Tyler Lockett or a DK Metcalf, for example. It wasn't until then that he had prolific pass catches. He's been able to make a lot of things happen, and we know that his mobility hasn't been the same since the earlier part of his career, but as a pocket passer, there's been times that Russ has absolutely missed passes, and we saw a lot of those against the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, the interception against the Chiefs was really the backbreaker there, and it took off an opportunity to score in the red zone. Now you're looking at the Steelers. They stand as the 5th seed, and they look like a team that's on the way out of the NFL playoffs. I mean, they'll get in. They're currently in, but depending on how the seeding works out, my only true belief in the Steelers team of getting any type of playoff success is if they match up against the lowly Houston Texans, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this podcast. But the Steelers overall, If they match up against any team outside of the Houston Texans and play like the Ravens yet again, I think that they'll be one and done, missing out on another postseason opportunity where they failed to win a single game. And this extends a drought that we haven't seen this Pittsburgh Steelers team under Mike Tomlin win a postseason game since 2016. I understand Mike Tomlin will be a Hall of Fame head coach. He's been part of a fantastic program in Pittsburgh, but let's just look at the recent results. I mean, they have been a lot of mediocre type of performances, and you limp into the postseason not looking the greatest, and then you get shellacked in the first round. I mean, I can't remember the last time that the Steelers actually were competitive even in the wild card round. And if they flame out again, I think there might be some changes needed to be made in Pittsburgh for this team that has muddled around in mediocrity for the last better part of a decade. And that's just not the Steelers' mentality. They're better than mediocre. They're all about championships and Lombardi trophies, whereas getting into the postseason and settling for just above average.